Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Good morning, friends. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. My name is Lila Herndon-Vizard, and I am a grateful member of UUCA's Board of Trustees. Today is Sunday, September 3rd. Whether this is your first time joining us or your regular Sunday destination, we are so glad that you are here. UUCA is a church of radical love and acceptance, open to people of all backgrounds, races, genders, sexual orientations, abilities and disabilities, seen and unseen. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self to our community. At UUCA, we encourage people to come for our community, find inspiration, and live with purpose. While we still have a few more weeks of official summer, especially in our weather, today marks the end of our summer Sunday schedule. Next week, Sunday, September 10th, we will return to our 9:15 and 11:15 a.m. services. So put a sticky note on your computer screen or a reminder in your calendars. It is also our homecoming Sunday and water communion. So people should bring water with you from your home, your backyard faucets and taps, or from your travels as you'd like. Again, welcome, and take a deep breath as we begin our worship together.
Good morning. I'm Betsy Rosenblatt Rosso. I'm your worship associate for today, and I wanted to let everyone know that we are delighted to have Reverend Morgan McLean with us today in the pulpit. This is Reverend Morgan. Reverend Morgan is the International Engagement Program Manager in the UUA International Office, where she supports individuals and congregations in creating connections to Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists around the globe. She and her family are happy to be part of UCA. Her 4-year-old Myrtil can most often be spotted dancing in the aisles on Sunday, and her husband Daniel is a professor of political science at Northern Virginia Community College. So welcome to the Chancel, Reverend Morgan. And now I'd like to invite you to take a moment to greet your neighbor and say hello.
Good morning, good morning. It is so good to be together. Come into this place, this time of togetherness. We come together in worship to share our lives, to seek inspiration, to enjoy silence. Come into this place and rest if you can. Come into this place, be as present as you can. Come into this togetherness and be held by this community.
Each week, we light our candle of compassion for all those within our community and throughout our world who are struggling, who are grieving, who are lonely, who are facing challenges and fighting battles they don't know how to overcome. We send compassion and loving kindness especially to those affected by gun violence, to those threatened and oppressed because of their identities, and to those whose safety and well-being are endangered by natural disasters and man-made wars. We send love and light and hope for peace and justice to all people and communities in need of compassion.
Willkommen Herzen, kommt offene Herzen und Herzen, die von Drangsal und Sorgen, Verlust und Zweifel verschlossen sind. Kommt Suchende, die ihr euch nach Antworten oder einer Atempause sehnt oder danach eurer Freude freien Lauf zu lassen. Hier sind alle willkommen und müssen sich weder entschuldigen noch erklären. Wenn wir unsere Leuchter entzünden, das Symbol unseres Glaubens, dann gehört dieser Moment uns allen.
Welcome, hearts. Come, hearts that are open and hearts that are closed by trials and sorrows, loss and misgivings. Come, seekers, searching for answers, for respite, or a space to unleash your joy. Here, all are welcome. No excuses are needed, nor explanations. Bring your whole heart and let it be touched. As we light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, this moment belongs to each of us.
Our opening hymn today is There's a River Flowing in My Soul. And I'm wondering, so today the kids who are 5 and under are going to head downstairs. And the other kids who are, 6 to 100 are going to stay up here So I'm wondering if the kids who are 5 and under would like to come up and help lead this song. Anyone want to come up and help? Or if you're older too, come on up. If we might need some help leading this song. This song, and if you're 4, yes. If you're 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1, come on up, come on up. And if you're 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, come on up. Come on up, we're going to lead the song. So there's 3 verses to this song. There's a river flowing in my soul, there's a river flowing in my mind, and there's a river flowing in my heart. So I was thinking we could just help everyone remember what the words are, so we could maybe do like, there's a river flowing in my, can you do this? Soul. Can you do this for soul? So when we sing soul, do that. And then mind, what should we do? There's a river flowing in my mind. Can you do like a river flowing from your mind? Mind, I don't see any mind flowing. Mind flowing. And there's a river flowing in my heart, okay? So, we'll try it together, eh? Would you please rise in body or spirit? Are you going to help? Okay.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing, there's a river flowing, there's a river flowing, there's a river flowing, there's a river flowing in my soul.
Thank you so much. You're going to stay standing because we're going to sing one more time as our 5 and under head on downstairs. Thank you so much.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Thank you. I'm going to need a little more help from all of you, and then maybe some folks who are willing to come up too. We're starting this service with a pop quiz. Why is the date 1517 significant in religious history? No? Crusades? Cathedral at Worms. Yes. Go on. Sort of, yes. Can you read that? Martin Luther. Okay. So who was raised Lutheran? Who can tell us what Martin Luther did? Thank you. I saw that. Yes. Martin Luther. So who would like to hold this for me? Because we're going to make a little living timeline. Do I have any volunteers? You look like a good volunteer. Okay, so Martin Luther was a Catholic priest. And he had some ideas that maybe the Catholic Church wasn't exactly the church that he wanted. He just wanted to reform it a little. He wanted to stay Catholic. And as one does, one writes 99 points of the things that are wrong with the church, and then nails it to the cathedral door. So there's a chalice there. Don't run into that. So Indeed, Martin Luther did that, and almost in protest of the things that the church were doing, and people actually started to call him Protestant, okay? See how we did that? Catholic, protesting the Catholic Church, Protestant. All of a sudden, there is the Catholic Church and there is the Protestant Church. And Martin Luther's ideas spread. One of the most important things in spreading those ideas was what? Printing press. Someone paid attention in high school civics. Printing press. So for the first time in the 1500-year history of the church, people were reading the Bible in their own language. So previously they'd been reading it had been spoken to them in Latin, and now they were able to read these ideas, these words from teachers like Jesus and the prophets in the Jewish part of the Bible. And they were finding for themselves new ideas, new truths as they read the Bible. There was another person, John Calvin. He was part of this Protestant movement. He believed that everyone before they were born was predestined, meaning before you were born, it was already written in the stars. After you died, you were either going to heaven or hell, and it didn't really matter what you did in your life for that. There are a lot of other people but I want to introduce you to a few folks who took this Protestant movement and moved it towards us, towards our Unitarianism. So I need another volunteer here. Come on up. I'm going to need like 6, I don't know how many ever colors there are here. So, and you'll go on that side, please. Thank you. In 1531, you can open it up, you can introduce us. And if there's more papers, you can always hold 2 and 2. A man named Michael Servetus wrote a book called On the Errors of the Trinity, for which he was persecuted, chiefly by John Calvin himself. And in 1553, when Michael Servetus wrote his latest book, The Restoration of Christianity, which he had sent to Calvin as sort of a Calvin strapped a copy of that book to Michael Servetus's leg and did what terrible things they did to martyrs in the 16th century and burned him at the stake for his Unitarian beliefs. But Servetus had inspired a lot of people, and so here we come, our next one. And that one's kind of, maybe we need 2 people to hold each side of that, I'm not sure. One of them was an Italian physician named Giorgio Biandrata, who had become a big advocate of Servetus's ideas, and he refused to sign John Calvin's Orthodox Confession. And he ended up fleeing to Transylvania a few times, to Poland a few times, and in Poland he established the heretical churches before fleeing again to Transylvania, where he met Queen Isabella. Queen Isabella of Transylvania was acting as the queen for her son, John Sigismund, who had become king at only a few weeks old. And once an adult, King John became the first and only Unitarian king in history. Under his rule, and we're ready for this next one, I think. Are we at the right one? Are we going? Oh. Okay, we need to switch 68. We're going to tell the story out of order a little bit. Sorry. In 1568, there was King John ordered this conference, as they did at that time. They had big religious debates in churches. And this debate was about religious tolerance. And King John appointed Francis David to be the representative of the Unitarian cause at this debate in Torda in Transylvania. And so in 1568, the Edict of Torda was written, and it guaranteed religious freedom to Catholics, Lutherans, Calvinists, and Unitarians. And this was huge at the time. It was the most far-reaching religious toleration law in Europe to date. And it proclaimed that faith was a gift from God, and no one should suffer at the hands for religious reasons. It is important to note that this was Catholics, Lutherans, Calvinists, and Unitarians, and not Orthodox Christians, Jewish people, or Muslims. We still have work to do in our toleration of religion. When King John Sigismund died at age 30 in a horse accident, the new rulers did not like his religious tolerance, and Francis David was sentenced to life in prison and became a martyr for the Unitarian cause. And there is now a memorial to him in that prison in Deva, Transylvania. So Transylvania, who's heard of Transylvania? Who's seen the movie Hotel Transylvania? Okay. There are not vampires in Transylvania. There are a lot of Unitarians. So Transylvania is the mountainous region between what is today Hungary and Romania, and that land was ethnically Hungarian for at least 1,000 years, and it was given to Romania at the end of World War I. So the ethnic Hungarians, many of whom were Unitarians, now found themselves foreigners in their own land. And then after World War II, when the Soviet army occupied Romania, Transylvania was forced to adopt Soviet communism. So until 1991, the Unitarians in Transylvania and their lands and their schools were taken and controlled by the government for communal rule. And many Unitarian churches there today are still negotiating with the government to get all their property back. Through all of this, the Hungarian kept their culture and their language alive, and there are about 150 Unitarian congregations in Transylvania. That means about 50,000 people are part of those communities, which are often centered in small villages. The Hungarian Unitarian Church today has a bishop and a catechism. It has a set of beliefs with over 100 points that young people are expected to learn. One of those points, they explain, how do we understand God? We perceive God as soul and love. God is spirit, and they that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. The Unitarians in Transylvania have worshiped together and never given up their identity. They come from this long line of Protestants and heretics. And if we return to our timeline, thank you. So we left off in, I don't remember where we were. Okay. I mentioned Michael Servetus. Who's Michael Servetus? Another of Michael Servetus' followers was Faustus Socinus. And he died in 1562, and he left his papers to his nephew. And his nephew read those papers and further developed his ideas, and then became a chief advocate for these ideas that became known as Socinianism, mostly in Poland. But if we do this big time jump to 1774, and we meet a Socinian in England named Joseph Priestley. Who's heard of Joseph Priestley? We are in the Joseph Priestley district area of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Joseph Priestley, I used to say invented oxygen, but that's not right. He discovered oxygen as a chemist. So he called himself a Socinian. He supported a man named Theophilus Lindsay at the first Unitarian service in England in 1774. And his ideas got increasingly radical too. And eventually he fled and landed in America, in Philadelphia, where he gave some sermons. And those became the first services of the First Unitarian Church in 1794. In Philadelphia. So our roots are radical, they're courageous, they're full of reason and love and toleration and discovery and being true to yourself. So thank you, Timeline. Thank you. We can put the cards down, and will hold the spirit of all of these folks. Thank you. Excellent timeline holders. So I invite you now into a spirit of prayer and reflection, a time of quiet and centering. You might close your eyes or find your feet firmly planted on the ground. Open your hearts and minds to this time that we create together. As we breathe in, we feel the breath move through us. We notice the life that it sustains. We're grateful for our bodies, for our hearts, for our minds. For a moment to look inward. Today, we see those places inside ourselves where we know we are not our best, and we let them go just a little as we join in this company of imperfect human beings. As we breathe in gratitude for that which sustains us, for that which gives us life, for that which brings us joy. And so we acknowledge inside ourselves too those places of joy and success, those places we are grateful to share in community. We know we do not exist alone, and so we extend our prayers, our hopes, our dreams to the people around us, to those in our lives who need our support, who need our love, to the people in this church, to the people in our other communities who are struggling with addiction, with grief, with the unknown. May they know our love. And may we extend that love, that hope, that support to all corners of the globe, to the places that we know are hurting, are seeking safety, the places that are hungry. We know that our love, our hope, can be transformed into action to transform this world. And let us sit in a moment of silence for a few more breaths, that we might each in our own ways name the joys and the sorrows of our being. Amen.
This morning, we're going to do Spirit of Life a little bit differently than we usually do. You'll notice in your order of service that it's printed in a number of languages, including, I think, Hungarian. I am not quite up to singing it in Hungarian myself, but if you would like to, please go ahead. I'm going to sing it in French the first time and in Spanish the second time. Please join in whatever language you would like to.
Source de vie, viens, comble-moi, chante mon cœur, tous les sons sentiment de grâce souffle dans le vent, vogue sur la mer, coule dans mes mains, vie d'espoir et de justice. Terre, nourris-moi, ciel, emporte-moi, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi. Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón, cántale tu compasión, sopla a volar, sube en la mar, hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraígame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí.
In 2009, UUCA partnered with Adivima to create Guatemalan Scholarship Partners, a Mayan human rights organization that supports 52 Mayan middle and high school students. These students' grandparents were killed in the massacres of indigenous people during the civil unrest of the 80s and 90s. As a result, the parents of these students became orphans who never had an opportunity to complete their education. Guatemalan public education ends in the 6th grade. So after that, young Mayan men go to work in the fields, and young women often marry if they do not have the means to attend school. Adivima provides students with the money for tuition, food, transportation, and during the pandemic, access to cell phones and computers when schools were closed. This year, 14 Adivima students graduated with degrees in accounting, business administration, computer science, and education. The human rights of Mayan people are still under attack. Activists are injured or killed, and those working to protect civil rights have been exiled. Now is a critical time to support young people whose education will contribute to the leadership of the Mayan community's progress towards social justice and economic advancement. In February 2024, next year, UUCA is sending a delegation to meet our accompagners and the students we sponsor in Guatemala. You can learn more about the Guatemalan Scholarship Partners at the table in the fellowship hall after the service. 70% of today's offering will be shared with Guatemalan Scholarship Partners. 30% of the offering will support our ongoing work here at UUCA. You can give today with cash in the plate, check, or any of the methods listed in your order of service on our website or on your screen if you're joining us online. However you give, thank you for your support today. We are grateful. Will the ushers please come forward to collect the offering?
Our offertory song is called We Will Walk Together. It's a simple tune. I encourage you to join in. It goes, we will walk together, you and I walk together hand in hand. We will walk together and somehow we will reach the promised land. And then we'll switch out some of the words. It'll be sing together, dance together, move together. Please feel free to rise in body and spirit as you're offering.
We will walk together, you and I, walk together hand in hand. Come on, we will walk together and somehow we will reach the promised land. Come, my friend, I seek a brighter day where freedom rings for everyone. Come along and we will find a way till justice rises like the sun. Sing together. We will sing together, you and I, sing together hand in hand. We will sing together and somehow we will reach the promised land. Come, my friends, I seek a brighter day where freedom rings for everyone. Come on. along and we will find a way till justice rises like the sun.
This one's dance together.
We will dance together, you and I, dance together hand in hand. Come on, we will dance together and somehow we will reach the promised land. Come, my friend, I seek a brighter day where freedom rings for everyone. Come along and we will find a way till justice rises like the sun. Move together. We will move together, you and I, move together hand in hand. We will move together and somehow we will reach the promised land. Come, my friend, I seek a brighter day where freedom rings for everyone. Come along and we will find a way till justice rises like the sun. Till justice rises like the sun. Till justice rises like the sun.
As the ushers come forward with the offering, I invite you to join with me after the first few lines of our offering blessing. We bless and receive these gifts, opening our hearts to true generosity. Let us be grateful when we give, be it time, talent, or treasure. Let us be grateful for our needs and the experience of vulnerability. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts to nurture this congregation. Thank you.
So we know there are Unitarians in Transylvania and in England and in the United States, but if you imagine a map of the world, you would see pins of Unitarian and Unitarian Universalist communities in Brazil, in South Africa, in Burundi and Germany and India and the Philippines and Australia, and so many places in between. Each pin on that map represents its own history, its own social context for the faith. Of course, the social and cultural realities of these U/U communities around the world are vastly different. And I say U/U because Unitarian Universalists uniquely came together in the United States. There are some communities who have now adopted Unitarian Universalists, but mostly they are Unitarian. We don't have a global pope or bishop. We don't all exactly have the same thing that we do on Sundays, but we are related and connected. So I want to share a little bit about two more points on that map. There's a part of India northeast of the main country that we picture on the map. And it's there in the state of Meghalaya where you will find the Unitarian Union of Northeast India. One of the indigenous groups there, the Khasi people, had their own non-Hindu religion featuring belief in a creator god. And when that area of Northeast India was found by missionaries, Welsh missionaries in the 19th century, then that conversion to Christianity with the one God went well, according to the missionaries. It was the missionaries who created that Khasi text of the Bible. And so then a young man named Hajam Kishore Singh read the Bible in his own language when he was 15, when he converted to that Methodist tradition. So as he began to read the Bible for himself, like all those folks on our timeline, he began to ask some questions about the nature of Jesus and God, not knowing that other people had done so in Transylvania and England and Boston and other places. The questions about the Trinity, about Jesus being somehow holy or equal to God. The questions about the miracle stories. Were they really miracles or were they metaphors? Eventually, Hajam Kishore Singh, again, he was born in 1865. He got connected and someone shared the writings of the American Unitarian minister William Ellery Channing. And so then he found this word Unitarian, which had been articulated by William Ellery Channing, and he embraced it. On September 18th, 1887, Hajam Kishore Singh led the first Unitarian church service in his home in Jawai. There was one woman and two men, as the legend goes. They were the first members of his church. And eventually they developed a Kasi hymn book, and in that they have a writing by Hajam Kishore Singh, and where he describes the idea of God as the living God is only one God, the real Father, Mother. He is filled with love and compassion and forgives those who repent. Today, there are about 35 Unitarian congregations throughout Northeast India. Many of them have their own school. And there are actually now 3 different groups of people, not just the Kasi people, but 3 tribes in that area who have adopted Unitarianism. And sometimes when they come together, they actually use English as their common language, and so they all worship in their own local languages. Every year, that anniversary of September 18th is celebrated with a month of celebrations leading up to September 18th. They have special meals and parties, and they seek to visit every member of the congregation within that month. So there are parties, and everyone gets their house ready, and they come and they cram in and they sing. So that could be an idea here for our anniversary. They also use the symbol of the flaming chalice. And if you can imagine this huge party, this anniversary day ends with a parade which is led by a giant lighted neon chalice on a big truck going blasting music down the road. The chalice is also used as a symbol of the UU Church in the Philippines. And it was in the Philippines, Universalism actually emerged on the island of Negros, led by a man named Tirobio Queimada. As a young man in the 1930s, he read the Bible for the first time, finding a new understanding of his faith. He founded a Protestant church, the Iglesia Universal de Cristo, and began searching for resources for religious education because he knew it was important to teach the children and engage the children in these lessons. One of the responses actually came back wrapped up in an old newspaper, and it happened to list American Protestant denominations, and one of them was the Universalist Church of America. So he thought Universalist, and he had used this word universal for his church. And so he wrote to the then Universalist Service Committee, which became the UU Service Committee in 1952. And he started to develop more resources and a relationship with the Americans. In 1954, Queimada was excommunicated from that church, and he sought help for the 9 congregations that he served. And then they established the Universalist Church of the Philippines with some financial assistance from Americans. And in 1958, there were 21 Universalist congregations on Negros Island, and today there are 27. And they have a dream these days of doubling that. 50 by 2050, I think, is the tagline. In 1988, Queimada planned to attend the UU General Assembly here in the States, but he was assassinated on May 23rd, just a month before the General Assembly, for his ministry to poor farmers. With the leadership of the UUA, the bylaws of our American Unitarian Universalist Association were changed just for a moment to allow the UU Church of the Philippines to become a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. So they are unique in our international siblings as they are a member, just as this congregation is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, they are too. They use the 7 principles, and they have added an 8th, not our 8th principle, but they have added an 8th, and they've made it first, and it is, there is a God, and God is love. The words that in our hymn, our next hymn, are from Reverend Kimada. It's kind of wordy, and you might not know this hymn. It's hymn number 182, and I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and while Steve plays an introduction, maybe read through the first verse so you get ready to sing with us. And you got to sing loudly because we're small in numbers, so we're going to fill this space.
Oh, the beauty in a life that illumines honor anew, that models wise and gracious ways to every seeker, that every day shall serve in joy and do the right. Oh, praise the life whose beauty shows a justice true. Let not service of the good be confined to great saints alone. Let every hour be part of our daily living. Set not the hope of wisdom's grace beyond our ken. How wide the path, how close the goal which love has shown. Oh, the beauty of a life that illumines care of the soul, that knows a life that is for self as well as others, that every day embodies joy for every good. This is the faith to which we turn our God and goal.
Transcendentalist Henry David Thoreau wrote in his journal in 1837, "When any real progress is made, we unlearn and learn anew what we thought we knew before." He, as a Transcendentalist and Unitarian, was continuing this tradition of learning for ourselves, deciding and reading and discovering what is true for us. When we unlearn and learn anew, we open the world of possibilities. I would argue since March of 2020, the whole world has been learning anew. We have learned how truly interconnected humanity is around the globe, how vulnerable we are, and how much we need to care for each other. When we're in learning mode and with a willingness to do things differently than before, the possibilities really emerge. This is the context for my full-time job, which is as the International Engagement Program Manager at the Unitarian Universalist International Office. That's a lot of words. I have the great pleasure of working with the UUs I've been talking about and so many more around the globe, finding new ways of being together. When I tell people what my job is, I often have to qualify with something like, but we don't do mission work. Because so many international offices of denominations is about spreading their word, their truth to other people. American Unitarian Universalists have never been big into converting or forcing our religious beliefs on others. We don't have a perfect record, but we'll talk about that in another sermon. What we do have is a yearning for deep connection, a yearning for opportunities to deepen our own spirituality, our own faith, and to build relationships with one another. American UUs have enjoyed relationships with UUs around the globe for over 100 years. And at this moment in history, it's been critically important for me and other Americans to take a step back, to consider the way that Western colonial white tendencies have built systems that have not fostered equal relationships. Western colonial white tendencies that we swim in are hard for us to see sometimes. There are systems of relationships, charity, education that have perpetuated inequality and inequity. I'm unlearning my American charity mindset. We as a culture often have a sense of charity that we are a savior, a person who knows best. And with our money, we can show other people the light. And we can't resist a building project. But do they need the building? Did they ask? Or did we say it first? And how are they going to say no? So how might we listen to what's needed? How might we resist making those suggestions at first and then match our generosity with what's needed? What would it be like to give generously without expecting a thank you note or a tote bag or a ledger sheet of exactly how those funds were used? What if we gave with faith and trust and joy, knowing that our generosity will be met with faith and trust and joy and be used for what is really needed? I am unlearning my American sense of work and outcomes, American Western colonial white tendencies that are hyper-focused on mission and vision and strategic plans. Who has been part of a strategic planning process? Who enjoyed it? There's one person who left her hand up back there. We'll talk. Okay. So our way of being is to assume that if we lock ourselves in a conference room for a weekend, we can come up with all the answers and a 5-year plan with due dates. How do we center relationships over outcomes? How might we make room in a 5-year plan for new ideas, for emerging connections, for inspiration? And how might we consider the way we actually talk about it? Literally the words we use, like mission, like using your truth to force others into submission. Strategic plan, strategy for what? For conquering? For telling others? So it's not just our behaviors, our tendencies, it's also the language. And this is something I am doing all the time, decolonizing my language. My instinct, this language I swim in, this militaristic, capitalistic language. We're on the front line for justice. The front line? Are we in battle? No. We're holding hands for justice. We're holding hands to transform the world. So these words have colonized my mind, these concepts, this mission, these goals, this knowing what's best. So for me, that's my work in the global UU arena. I make these connections and then I try really hard every day, and it takes intention to be a different kind of white American. For the past year, I've been helping to facilitate a process that's reimagining this global faith of ours and the ways that we come together in various communities. There's a group called the Leadership and Design Team, and it was intentionally formed by those who held the work before. And those folks, and I was part of that group, knew, well, we don't know how to do things differently, or we would have done it. So it's time. It's time for us to transfer the power, to transfer the financial resources, to transfer the contact list, and encourage a new way of being. Encourage this space for conversation, for discovering a new way, because none of us know how to do it. But we know we need time and space and communication, and so this group of people from all over the world who have varying levels of experienced leaders, 23-year-old brand new church members, people speaking all sorts of languages and coming at this faith and these connections from all different ways, are coming together to decide, how do we share? How do we share our stories? How do we share our money? And I, as an American, am not the boss. My job is to step back and support this, because as an American, the Unitarian Universalist Association has more resources, and I actually get paid a salary to host the Zoom meeting and send email reminders. This is the future of our global faith, I think. To feel that connection, and we are more connected than ever, thanks to Zoom and WhatsApp, things that we couldn't even imagine, I think, even 3 years ago. We learned in the pandemic how easy it is to make meaningful connections through a video call. And so we come from generations of UUs who knew that learning and growing and discovering together, think about that timeline, was life-giving and faith-deepening. And we are still part of that story. We have so much to learn and grow and discover together. And that is what you and I are part of. We all have this unlearning to do. We all have to decolonize our minds to learn new ways of speaking, new ways of imagining, new ways of doing things, and not insignificant things, new ways of using language, sharing our wealth, new ways of understanding our American selves in a global context. And I think it's pretty exciting. I think there is so much that we can learn when we start to listen to the stories, when we read not just the histories but the current texts, when we hear the languages and hear the words from other places. We have so much to be together. So we'll sing our final hymn, We'll Build a Land. And if you would rise in body or spirit, and if you open up your hymnal, Steve's going to point something out.
This is number 121 in the gray hymnal. And on the second page of the song, in the second system, if you know your music terms, which is just the second set of lines there, it says, "Come build a land where sisters and brothers." We're going to sing "Come build a land where siblings in spirit," and proceed from there. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where siblings in spirit, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where siblings in spirit, Spirit, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up their stations of old, restoring the ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where siblings in spirit, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where siblings in spirit, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Whew. There's a lot of words. It's good ones.
Please join me in these words as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light and warmth it represents. These we carry with us, bringing our sparks of love to the world.
Our benediction comes from Fulgence Najimana, the founder of the Unitarian Church in Burundi. He was persecuted for his beliefs and in 2015 had to flee the country and now lives and preaches in Canada. These are his words. I'm grateful for the faith that reminds me all the time to have faith in the human capacity of building a more just and fairer world, to have faith in our responsibility as we live in this place, to have faith in the many possibilities that God has for us, and to be open to freely embrace them. So may it be.
And our closing song is Where You Go, I Will Go, Beloved. It's again a simple song. If you pick it up along the way, please feel free to join in. And we'll change the words each time. It'll be beloved, children, ancestors, and then back to beloved. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Children this time. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Ancestors. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Beloved, one more time. Where you go,